Hi crafters, and welcome to Technique of the Week. This week we are talking about the VersaMark pad and the techniques you can do with that. I'm going to show you 3 of the different techniques that can be done with this pad, but there's a lot you can do with this pad outside of that. So first and foremost, the VersaMark pad, and I'll just let you know, it is considered a pigment ink, which means it will need to be re-inked every now and then. I just re-inked mine because I wasn't sure, so I'm not sure what it's going to be like. But first and foremost, like it states on the lid, the VersaMark is a watermark stamp pad, which means it is going to do a lighter tone of whatever it is you are stamping. And as it dries, it's going to get a little more dark. But that's... Oh, and my colors are very off. Let me see if I arrange this light a little bit better. Nope. Now I'm getting the ring in there. Alright, it just doesn't seem like that's a very true color. But this is a pink card. And you can just see how that VersaMark pad does a darker variation on that, or a watermark look. Here's another one. I'm just going to do this across the top so you can see, and as that dries it will again get a little bit darker, and that's just going to be the watermark look. Now since it is a wet pad and it stays wet a little bit longer, you can also emboss with it. So let me grab out, let me grab out my white. Let me find my, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to use one of my other ones because I can't find my Stampin' Up! One. Alright, so since it is a water mark pad, but it's also a pigment, which means the ink stays wet a little bit longer, you can emboss with it. So you can see where it hasn't already dried, that ink is grabbing. I'm sorry, that embossing powder is grabbing on there. Let me just get this back in here. Oh, can't do that when I have the cork in there. Yeah, I don't know. I must have my embossing one over on my side table. And having no fingernails does not help because I can't get that little cork out of the end. Here we go. Yeah, that's one bad thing about being on chemo pills. I can't grow nails. So here we go. Now we'll go ahead and we'll get that embossing powder back in there. Because you want to make sure all your embossing powder is put away and secured before you turn on your heat gun. All right. So let's go ahead. I will heat up my heat gun. It's going to be a little bit loud. I'm going to try to keep it off to the side here so it won't be as loud. So let me go ahead. Let me unplug something from my power strip. There we go. And I'm going to let it heat up over here off camera. I'm trying to keep it as far away from my microphone as possible. Let me move that too, because that might have been blocking the microphone. Grab tweezers so I don't burn myself. But now that this is warmed up, you can see, oops, I'm going to go from the underside so you can see that changing. You see that going from that powdery look to that enamel look. You don't want to overheat it. Let me unplug that right away. I don't like leaving my heat gun plugged in. Let me put it over here on my side desk so it can cool down. But that's another use of the VersaMark, is that you use it with your embossing powders and you can do the embossing. I don't think I got it all completely there. So you have the watermark feature, you have embossing. The third thing I like to do with it is called ghosting. Now we don't carry the Stampin' Up! Glossy paper anymore, but this technique works best with glossy paper. You can use it on some of your white papers that have a coating on it because it works best as that. So let me cut down just a panel. I'm just cutting it off here on the side. So I'm cutting this down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All right, and let me grab, do I have a flower set nearby? I do not. Let me grab one real quick. All right, let me do this. I have not done an introducing examples with series on this one yet. This is probably for next weekend. But let's go ahead and grab out that. Let's do that leaf from the Forever Florals. So let's go ahead and grab that leaf. Ooh, the polka dots would be fun too. I don't think it's going to show up very good though with the polka dots. We can try. We can see. All right, I'm going to use an A block. We don't carry the A blocks anymore, but I still think they're one of the best block sizes out there. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to, now you got to be careful because it is going to slide on the glossy paper. And I can't really see where I've stamped before. So I'm just kind of going, I'm twisting, I'm kind of going in a line, kind of not. You know what? And I grabbed some bright colors, but I think now I want to grab a green. So let me go grab a green really quick. Let's do Shy Shamrock, since this will be retiring soon and I've hardly ever used it. But let's do Shy Shamrock. Now, if we embossed, you could do a resist with this, and I'll show that next. But this is called ghosting, which means you just have it on there as is. And you're just going to come over, and wherever that VersaMark is, you're going to see it grab a little. But then what we're going to do is we're going to wipe away at it. And you're going to have this ghost look. I probably should have put some tape on the back because I feel like I'm touching areas where I have the VersaMark. All right, now it's starting to come through. In fact, let me put a little bit on the back. That way it doesn't move. But you see how we're rubbing over where that VersaMark is. It's just leaving a light white area. And I should be tapping off, but I forgot. And you got to remember that this ink is going to dry. It doesn't stay wet forever. So the sooner you do this, the better results you'll get. All right, so there is ghosting. I'm going to bring it up so you can see, and then we're going to do the clear embossed resist so you can see the difference. But there's the ghosting. See how it's just very light. And you're going to let this dry the way it is. And you're just going to have that very light background. Like I said, this works best on glossy paper. So now let's go ahead and grab, let me clean this off first. Get stuff out of the way. A lot of that residual ink off. All right, so now we're going to do the clear emboss resist. And what I'm going to do is, sorry, I have a bunch of stuff on my cutter over here. So I'm going to cut off a little piece of basic white. And then I'm going to cut a little piece of that glossy, wherever I put it. That's how things, oh, here it is. It's like, that's how things happen. So let me just, so we'll go side by side so you see how the resist is with both the basic white, which will be our bigger piece, and our glossy. All right. So now on this one, I think I'll take that flower, those solid flower bunches here. And so I'm going to stamp that down with the VersaMark. On both of these, and I'm going to heat set them. All right. Go ahead, put these in here. And I didn't use the embossing buddy or anything, so I might have fingerprints. And let me grab out my white. Oh, silly Roxy. My whites in a big container. I mean, our clears in a big container. And if you embossed with white, that would work too. Just you would have a white look and not the cardstock coming through from below. Another thing you have to be careful of when you're using the glossy to emboss on is that it will have a tendency to burn the cardstock or singe or turn around. So there you see we have the powder on there. Let me get this one. And there's the glossy. Remember, the glossy is the smaller one. All right, let's get this clear back in there. Oh, I put the thing in again. I always buy 2 or 3 containers of the clear, just because, not that I emboss that much, but if I do emboss, that's probably the one I use the most. Okay, let me again get, because now I have some powder on here. Let me get these off to the side. Let me just spray down my area real quick. All right, let me go get my heat gun again. Let me plug it in and get it warmed up. We'll do the glossy first. Remember, the glossy is the smaller. go ahead and get that under there. You can see that, I don't know if you can see that melting, going from that white powder look to that clear. Now glossy, you can really tell if it hasn't set yet. And I do have a couple areas there, and that might just be where that's chunky. So let's grab our basic white cardstock. Same thing. Once I see it starting to change, I move the gun away. All right. We're going to give that a second to cool before we blend over it. I'm going to move my gun back over to my side table, to my work desk. Okay. So now let's go ahead. What color should I grab? I don't think I have a peach, which I'll use that here. I may not use all of these. I may use a smaller one. All right. So here, let's remember that the ghosting was very light. This is the glossy paper with the ghosting. So here is the glossy, and now we are going to blend over it just like we did before, but this has that embossing on it. So we're going to go ahead and start in. Yeah, I had some crap inside of that embossing thing. I have to sift it out again. All right, so we're getting all of this over that area where we embossed. Then you're going to take, I want to make sure I use an end that's doesn't have alcohol on it. Then you'll buff away over that embossed image. So there is when you emboss, and there's where you ghost. So you can see the difference. The embossing is, oh, let me get my thumb out of the way. The embossing comes through a lot better than the ghosting. That's why it's called ghosting. Okay, this is our basic white. So, and usually ghosting does not go well on basic white. I'm not even going to show you. If you want to try it, you can. But remember, your basic white is really not coated. And so when you go over, it tends to, I'm not going to say it sucks into the card, but it doesn't give you as good of a result. All right, so this is basic white. This is just that clear embossing powder on the basic white. I'll show you ghosting really quick. Yeah, you're right. I should show you the ghosting on the basic white. All right, so here is basic white. Let me get one of these. That way I know there's not any alcohol in there. And we're just buffing over those embossed areas. All right. So there is the VersaMark with the clear. Let me show you the ghosting. Let me just grab off a little strip. I didn't even cut that very straight. So let's do the ghosting with the basic white, and you'll see what the difference is between basic white and glossy. I'm even going to use the same color here. Oh, got pretty dark there. But see how you're not even, you don't even see the ghosting because that ink soaks into the paper. Let me take this little area here that's already so I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I've stamped those flowers on that end. Now I'm going to come in to do ghosting. And you're going to start to see a little of the effect, but not much. Can you see? Let me put my hand. See, there's a little ghosting, but it's not as apparent as when you do it on the glossy. You can see that flower starting to come out, but it's not like the glossy. It's a very different, and it's only because this paper soaks up ink, whereas with the glossy, the ink stays on top for a while. Yeah, I'm still not getting any of those white images from where we stamped before. Maybe a little bit there, but not much at all. So ghosting, glossy paper. GG, ghosting, glossy paper. If you're doing the clear ink embossing, color emboss resist, you can use it on any cardstock. Let me clean this up and we'll go over, excuse me, what we just learned today about the VersaMark pad. All right. So, at its core, the VersaMark pad is a watermark pad. So, it's going to do whatever cardstock you stamp on. It's going to be just a little darker. It's going to be that watermark look. You can emboss with it. Here we embossed in white. I didn't do the clear only because on a yellow it wouldn't show up very good. But it can be your base for embossing. You can ghost with it on glossy paper. So you stamp your image and then you blend over it to get that ghost-like appearance. And then you can heat emboss, blend over, and rub off the area for resist. All right, guys. So that is working with VersaMark. That is your technique of the week. If you don't have a VersaMark pad, I highly recommend you get one because there's a lot of good uses you can use with just one pad. And if you have a lot of different colors of cardstock and you don't want to invest in all the matching inks, because if we stamp, this is I think this is Melon Mambo. No, this is, yeah, this might be Melon Mambo. So it gives that light look. So if we stamped with the Melon Mambo, it would be almost exactly the same. Pretty close. All right. One pad, lots of opportunities. So thanks for watching. Give me that thumbs up, please. Give me that like. It helps so much. And it makes me feel like you're actually watching out there. I can see people are watching, but I get very few likes. So let me know that you find these videos helpful. Thanks for watching. Have a great Sunday. Bye for now.